it happened. Junji Ito's new collection, well, it's not new because they're based off of stories, but new on Netflix, his new collection, Maniac. I'm obsessed. I am a huge Junji Ito fan. I have a few of his books, and I'm just hyped. But I also like talking about the things that I love. So I'm going to give you a recap of all the episodes. Not right now, I'm going to just do the first one. But if you're interested in hearing the other episodes, just comment below, like, share, and subscribe, all that cool YouTube stuff. Anyway, we're going to jump right in. So if you don't know who Junji Ito is, where have you been? Just kidding. I understand that. Horror is also not for a lot of people. Manga is not a big thing for people. And then when you combine two niche areas, it cannot, a lot of people not into it. But I personally adore it. It is a medium that I find to be the most entertaining because Junji has a way of really making you squirm. And if you are familiar with some of his art and some of his freaky stories, then you understand exactly where I'm coming from. I won't get into any specifics now because I don't want this to be a tangent of this story connects to this story and this one, because a lot of his stories have reoccurring themes, reoccurring locations, and I swear, based on this first episode, that some of these characters exist in other stories, not just the one that this one is based on. So we'll just hint at it, but then I'll definitely address them when we get there. But I am hyped. I seem hyped. I know it's probably chaotic and you're like, chill out, but I'm not going to. I'm so excited. Anyway, so the very first episode is called The Seance, the Bizarre Hikizuri Sibilings. And by the way, I am going to try my best to pronounce these names correctly, but definitely if you have pronunciation tips, throw them in the comments below. I am, and I'm happy to learn more, but definitely try to watch the episode, get the pronunciation down, but I already know I'm going to butcher some of these, so just roast me in the comments. That's absolutely fine. So this is based off of 5 siblings, 5 really strange Addams Family-like siblings, and I'm sure that was intentional. The oldest, Kazuha, is the eldest boy. Kanaku, the oldest sister. Shigeru, second oldest boy. Pugsley looking motherfucker. He also kind of reminds me of Andre from Prison School. If you've never seen Prison School, I also recommend that, but I would not watch it with people that do not want to see someone get squatted on with a sweaty, voluptuous, delicious. The point is, I wouldn't watch it in polite company. It's one of those anime, but he gives me those vibes. Narumi, who I like to describe as the boring sister, because when I first started doing the recap, I completely omitted her until we got to an integral part in the story, and I was like, oh snap, yeah, I forgot she was there. So you might notice that in the episode that she doesn't seem to have very dynamic things about her, but I think that's intentional. You can't have a family of 5 eccentric people. At least one of them has to be... Next person is Satoshi, who I like to call the green sibling. He's just green. That's his thing. He's green. He looks like he's on the verge of vomiting. He looks like he may have vomited prior to arriving, but yeah, he's gross. Mizaku, creepy little sister. She definitely arrived in a story, and I cannot for the life of me, if you know the story I'm talking about, put it in the comments below. But she was also a little sister, same character design, the white eyes, the creepy demeanor of another story where I think she has a brother. It's a Junji tale. So comment below. I feel like somebody out there knows what I'm talking about, but for the life of me, I cannot pinpoint it. But this is the same little sister. I don't know if maybe that's the point, that she's some creepy demon child that likes to pop around, but that's definitely the same person, I know. But comment below if you know what I'm talking about. So, we're gonna shimmy on into the story. The siblings are doting on Kazuha for being the generous older brother who works to keep them in their giant house so they don't have to work. And of course, every day when he leaves for work, they stand outside and send him away with thanks and praise. Just so you know, both of the parents in this story are dead. So that explains why Kazuha is the breadwinner, allegedly. So all of his siblings like to thank him for his hard work and just doting on him, except for the little sister who's just giggling like a maniac, but I think that's because she's hearing the voices of the people she's killed already. The eldest sister scolds her a little bit, like, oh God, you gotta thank him. Oldest brother's like, she's only 8, she doesn't know. But nobody knows that Kazuha is a giant ass liar. So the family's actually left them a huge inheritance. Before they died. Ew. After they died, they left them a huge inheritance, meaning they don't actually have to work. And Kazuha spends this time just lounging in the park or wherever else. In this particular story, he's lounging in a park, talking shit about how dumb his siblings don't realize, oh, we got left money, but I don't want to sit there with him. Like, he's just being a giant ass. It's just ridiculous, right? So, as he's waxing lethargic on this bench, he notices a baddie taking a picture of what I can assume is the most deadliest body of water in the world, because there are signs that are saying folks have died here, get the fuck out, you know, and he tries to put the moves on her. Now, in my opinion, I'm thinking this young lady has noticed that this man was laying on this bench and, you know, was like, okay, strange. It's the middle of the day. What are you doing here? But he tries to play it off as though he's like this impeccable stranger. He walks up to her and asks her, hey, why are you taking a picture of this grody ass lake? Oh, it's a pond, it's not a lake, jeez Louise. And she's like, this is spirit photography. I'm trying to take pictures of ghosts. She doesn't sound like that, but I'm gonna make her voice that the entire explanation, right? So Kazuha's like, oh, actually, I live in a very big mansion that is known for supernatural shit, because I don't know. I guess when your parents die, you can just claim that their ghosts are in the home. I don't know. There's not a big explanation on why this place is haunted, but she's like, cool, whatever. He invites her over, saying, hey, you know, if you want to take a picture of a rusty old lake, why don't you come over and take a picture of my crib? Which is a way for him to get her to her house, which, you know, that's the point of this. And she agrees. After observing this man just laying on a bench in the middle of the park in the middle of the day, she agrees to go to this house with him at that moment. Not even, hey, here's my address, let's link up later. Like, I will leave with you right now. That's what happens. John Mulaney said it best, don't let him take you to a secondary location. But homegirl didn't hear that special. I don't know. So they arrive at the house and are immediately greeted by the 5 siblings, who are immediately floored. Shigeru literally is drooling and just exclaiming how beautiful this young woman is. And, you know, I guess that's to be expected, but they're also very strange. Like, he's just drooling. He's like in their face, which is why I think he reminds me a lot about Andre, He reminds me a lot of Andre from Prison School because of this situation. He's not as down bad as Andre was, but he's definitely giving the vibes that he's willing to be stomped on her if necessary. So she's giving a tour of various locations of their big estate. Shigeru is actually leading the charge, much to the ire of his brother, who is just very bad at talking to women and engaging. And it's funny to me that Shigeru, though he is very creepy, he seems to be the most knowledgeable about what's going around the house and knows how to do a tour. I don't know if that's a reason, but that's what happens. So Kazuha tries to join in and is like, hey, why don't you come in for a cup of tea? And she's like, absolutely not. I came here for one thing, to take scary ass pictures, and that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to leave. And she does. That evening, the siblings are having dinner, and Shigeru is eating kind of grossly, which I assume is normal for him. But Kazuha, I guess, with an accumulation of him giving her the tour, him being rejected by the lady. Oh, the lady's name, you know what? I'm gonna put her name on the screen. That's her name. I'm sorry. I didn't even tell you what her name was. He insults his brother and it's like, can you just stop eating like a giant pig? Like, stop, you're gross. That's the reason why you're fat. Like, he really tells him that. It's crazy. And that seems to trigger the creepy little sister, who starts bawling out of nowhere. And at first, folks are like, oh, it's because you're arguing. She doesn't like that. But then then it is suggested that she misses their parents, which I guess makes sense, that the young girl's 8 and sitting here having dinner with your weird siblings could trigger something like that. And then it was suggested that Rumi, the boring sibling, try to cheer her up because she looks the most like their mother out of all of them. Now Rumi's like, no, I'm not doing that. So that falls on the green sibling to ultimately try to console his little sister, who claws his face. Literally, she grows talons and just fucks him up. And he starts crying. Hitoshi is like, what the hell? Like, I was just trying to help. And he starts crying. And then it becomes a bigger thing. Folks start arguing. Kanako feels like she was a bit shaded when Shigeru mentioned that Narumi looks like their mother. And then she hits him with, why, well, when you said that, did you mean that I look like our father? Well, you kind of look like Muscle Man, if I'm going to be honest. And that creates a bigger thing, and they're arguing back and forth. Kazuha, instead of being the bigger sibling who's supposed to be the breadwinner and the voice of reason, says, hey, why don't we have a seance so we can talk to our parents so our annoying, creepy little sibling can stop crying. And we should also invite Homegirl back over because she's into spirit shit, right? And, that doesn't sound like the most reasonable thing to do when your entire family at the point is, they're on the brink. He's just thinking about some ass. So, they invite her. How do they invite her, you ask? Well, Kanako randomly shows up at her house, and it turns out the reason why she knows where she lives is because Kazuha is a creep and has been stalking her. I don't know what time frame has, skipped, but I feel like he just met her and suddenly he knows where she lives. Like, where did you start stalking her? I don't know. But Homegirl's just like, how do you know where I live? And Kanaku's like, my brother's been stalking you, but that's not the point, Homegirl. We're about to do a seance. Come through. And she comes through. Even though she has just been informed that she's been stalked by a strange man that she met at a creepy pond who invited him to her house, she still comes. And I have no reason behind that. I don't know why she did, but here we are. So the bad thing is, Homegirl arrives with her boyfriend, much to the chagrin of Kazuha, who is just like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, you know what? It's fine. He's here. Come inside. We're going to start the seance, and I hope you're in for a ride. He says that through gritted teeth. Everyone is in attendance except for Hitoshi because he's obviously healing from being bitch slapped by his evil sister. But he's not there. So Kazuha, trying to be the person guiding this, is immediately unrailed, blah, showed up by his brother, Shigeru, who starts to convulse and vomits up what appears to be ectoplasm. It's gross. And then he begins to channel their late father. Possessed Shigeru basically just lays it into Kazuha, just telling him how bad of a person he is, how mean he is to his siblings, and even drops the little dime that he knows that he's been lying to them about them having money. They were left a lot of money. It is never quite explained how Shigeru knows this and why Shigeru is going on with this charade, but allegedly he's possessed. I guess that's the point. So Kazuha leaves. He's frightened. He's bamboozled. He's hoodwinked. He leaves. He's just angry. He runs straight to the headstone of his father and beats the shit out of it because I guess that's what happens. Please note, there are still 2 strangers in this house while this is occurring who are just observing everything. I guess. I don't know. Eventually, the spirit of their late father leaves Shigeru, much to the sadness of the younger sister, who wants her parents back. So she starts crying and screaming, and Shigeru says, hey, why don't you take that ectoplasm I just threw up and maybe mom will come out of it? I don't know why that was a conclusion, but Homegirl, little evil daughter, sister thing, was like, oh my god, you're right. So she takes it and runs away all maniacally and whatever. The visitors somehow swipe a piece of the ectoplasm. I don't see when that happens. Maybe you noticed. I didn't notice. But they get some of the ectoplasm and they take it home with them. I don't know how I personally would have responded to that. Not necessarily the taking of ectoplasm, but the whole situation as a whole. But whatever. Now Shigeru is the head of the household, because part of the spewing of hatred towards the brother, it was also declared that he was not fit to be the breadwinner or the head of household. So Shigeru is now the head of the household, and he is riding that high. He is making people rub his back, try to cook him food. Like, he's just being a giant dick, which I guess when you've lived with a brother like Kazuha for a while, you kind of want to use that. But that doesn't mean treat your siblings like you're a dick. I don't know. So he invites Hitoshi to massage his nasty ass feet, and Hitoshi doesn't do anything. So this angers Shigeru, who gets up and curb stomps him in the corner for some damn reason. It's just gross. Suddenly, evil little sister runs back in with the molded, gross conglomeration of ectoplasm and screams, nothing's gonna come out of this because it's moldy and it's gross. That's true, because that's exactly what it is. It looks gross. It looks nasty. Meanwhile, Kazuha has returned. He's like kind of in the corner in the back, which Shigeru sees him and says, come on in, big bro. We're just hanging out. Even though I'm curb stomping homeboy over here, and our little sister has a molded collection of cells. I don't know. But even though little sister's angry, Shigeru suggests, why don't we have another seance? I can get you some fresh ectoplasm, and then either mom or dad will come back. Little girl's like, all right, that'll work. Kazuha is sent over to retrieve homegirl and her boyfriend again, but, actually, no. Kazuha is sent over to retrieve homegirl and is explicitly told not to bring the boyfriend because he, quote-unquote, gets in the way. Every man in this, not every man, but the oldest guys in this family seem to be down bad. Hella down bad. Anyway, Kazuha reluctantly goes back. He's all sad because his ego is wounded. He's now being pushed around by his oldest sibling. But little does he know that the two visitors had actually tested the ectoplasm and found out that it was actually just wheat flour, gelatinous wheat flour. And so they're angry. So when Kazuha arrives and he's like, hey, we're going to have another seance. You want to come through, but please don't bring your boyfriend. Homegirl's like, no, y'all are weird. That was a scam. Stay away from me. You or your siblings should have each other, but you need to get help. And slams the door in his face. Kazuha is livid, as anyone will be, finding out that they've been bullied by their gross, Pugsley-ass brother and lied to, heads home. Shigeru, honestly, when he is encountered by Kazuha, tries to pretend to be possessed again by their father. Rolls his eyes at the back of the head and is like, it's me, the dad. Gets beat. Whatever. Meanwhile, nobody notices that green sibling at the end of the table has been a little bit quiet. Suddenly, real ectoplasm comes out of green sibling and starts to flow down the halls of the house, making chase of all the siblings. Did I forget to mention that Narumi is upstairs in her room because she's boring and I don't know where she fits in the story aside from looking like the mother and being used to upset the other sister? I don't know. And family, everyone including Narumi, as soon as she realizes what happened, are chased out of the house into the graveyard. The ectoplasm starts to morph and swirl above them and begins to appear as the father. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't, mention whatever, just falls back into his broken head tombstone, which was beaten by Kazuha earlier, and everyone is shook, as one would be if that happened. Hitoshi comes out, and he's groggy. He's like, what just happened? Why is everyone outside? And people start screaming, and that's the end of the episode. I think it was super funny. The ending was funny to me because it's just old green sibling who's been ridiculed, beaten, slapped, scratched in the face by multiple people is ultimately the person possessed. But part of me thinks that the possession of Hitoshi would not have occurred if Kazuha did not beat the shit out of the tombstone. And I may or may not be right. I don't think the point of the story was that the dad was possessed or whatever. I think the point was that these are strange siblings. Kazuha's a dick. Shigeru, like I mentioned earlier, for some reason knows that his brother has been lying to them, why are you going on with this charade that y'all need to dote on him and that you're on the brink of poverty? Because like it doesn't make sense to me, but that's okay. These stories are not meant to make sense down to every detail. In fact, if you notice some of other Junji's tales, there are some kind of just missing links, but it's not important to the story. It's not like if you don't know this part, then the entire story unravels. It's just little lingering things, and I feel like that directly mimics real life. There are quite a few things where we don't have the answers to why it's occurring. We will never know the reason for why someone does something. So I appreciate how that ambiguity is there. It doesn't throw me off from the story. It doesn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. But I am genuinely curious on Shigeru's reasoning for not just bringing this up to his siblings before. Perhaps he just now learned it. Perhaps he's known. But I feel like that's some leverage he could have had against Kazuha. And if it were me, I'd be like, listen, homie, I know you're lying. So how am I going to get a piece of this pie? But Shigeru didn't do that, so whatever. Anyway, I am going to immediately start editing this video because I want it online stat. I'm going to try my best to do a weekly recap of each of the 12 episodes, so fingers crossed, you'll get 12 weeks of stuff from me. But if you have your own opinions about the story regarding why one person would go to a stranger's house in the middle of the day, something that I personally want to know, did Shigeru actually ingest a bunch of wheat flour and water and then throw it back up? Because the amount of ectoplasm that he allegedly threw up is insane and nasty. That's what I want to know. Anyway, y'all, thank you for watching. I know this is a bit rough around the edges because I'm recording this on my phone. It has way better quality than any camera that I have. That's Apple for you. And the light I'm using is a ring light that is very terrible for my skin complexion. I look kind of patchy, but I don't think you're watching this for me. You're definitely watching it for the recap of the episode. So you let me know. Do you want me to try to do better production as far as this part is? Or you're like, I don't care, girl. Just keep the pictures of the anime and keep talking about it. You let me know in the comments below, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!